It doesn't make sense. This game is a first-person shooter, base building is minimal, the zones don't look anything like Last Day on Earth, and the gameplay couldn't be more different. But every time I play a game, especially when I die, it just makes me think of Last Day on Earth. Alright guys, a new game just came out called Lostlight, and I'm loving it. It is so infuriating to play this game, but I think that is why I love it so much. To give you a quick rundown of how the game works, you start out in your base and you go to zones. In these zones, you fill up your backpack with all kinds of stuff that's worth something, and then if you die, you lose everything, including your armor, your backpack, all of it. It just disappears, or your enemy who killed you takes it. So your goal is to make it to an extraction zone so that you can take all of the stuff with you back to your base. Which already you might be able to see why this game makes me think of Last Day on Earth, but it's deeper than just that. There is something much deeper, like in the spirit of the game, that makes me feel what I felt when playing Last Day on Earth, or what I currently feel when I play Frostborn, which is Kafir's newest game. Now the first thing that I want to talk about that reminds me of Last Day on Earth, or actually even more Frostborn, that has the same feel, it's not the main thing, but it is a big thing, is that Lostlight has AI players and then they have real players. And unlike the Battle Royale where they kind of try to make them look like real players, this is more obvious. You don't know exactly when you're fighting them, but as soon as you kill it, it'll tell you if it was a guard or if it was an actual player. They'll have a name. So they've kind of embraced the idea of some bots and some players, but it's integrated in the game. The guards are meant to be there. The more you get used to the map, you kind of know where all the guards are, which kind of makes me feel a little bit like Last Day on Earth, like where all the zombies are. You kind of know where they are. You kind of know how difficult they are. But then when a player comes, you're like, oh my gosh, this is a whole new level. This is so much more difficult. And that's especially true in Frostwind. It's like, oh, is this going to be really difficult or is this going to be not so difficult? So that definitely has that same feel of, oh, I'm trying to survive. You're fighting with someone and immediately you're trying to assess, is this going to be easy or is this going to be hard? Now I know Last Day on Earth doesn't have a ton of PvP, not nearly as much as Frostborn, and so it's a little bit more like Frostborn, but even in Last Day on Earth, you know, you have the zombies, you knew where they were, and then an AI character, which was a lot stronger than a zombie, would come out of nowhere and it would catch you off guard. The second thing about Lostlight that is just so reminiscent of Last Day on Earth is the fact that bringing minimal gear is super important. You're going to be tempted because it's a first-person shooter. You want to bring your best gear, and that is such a mistake in Lostlight. You want to really bring minimal gear, because if you bring your best gear and you die, then you lose it, all of it. And that just brings me back to Last Day on Earth. If you bring your best gear, if you bring your SWAT armor or your Kevlar, or in Frostborn, if you bring your plate armor, assassin gear, and you go into a zone and something catches you off guard and you die, it's over. You lose all of it. And depending on how much that gear was worth it to you, I mean, right now in Frostborn and in Last Day on Earth, I could lose a bunch of Kevlar and a bunch of purple gear in Frostborn, and I would be fine. You know, like I have more and more sets. But when I first started playing those games, it was like, no, like maybe I had one set, and if I lost it, I would have gone back to nothing in the game. Lostlight is very similar to that. If you're bringing your best gear, it's going to devastate you. But if it's kind of like, well, you know, I have several sets of that, then, you know, maybe you will have really good gear because you're already very wealthy in the game. But just like Last Day on Earth and Frostborn, you can't bring just nothing. Like maybe in a green zone, you could bring like a spear and you could be like, okay, I'm just gonna do everything. But usually even in a green zone, you kind of want to bring a little bit of food. Otherwise, you're gonna probably have to go home earlier than you were wanting to, and that isn't the most efficient. You want to have very minimal gear, but you want to have just enough that you can do the zone and survive well and get out there and bring a lot of stuff home. Lostlight's the same way. I mean, you could theoretically go with just your pistol and no armor, and you could do okay, especially if you're really good at first-person shooters. But more likely than not, even if you're really good, you're going to end up losing some health, and maybe you won't find the health when you need it because the AI aren't dropping the first aid kits. So you should probably bring a little bit of healing, but if you're bringing healing, then maybe you should bring a little bit of armor to make that more efficient, and then you might as well have a better gun to protect, you know, so you have a better chance. But then you don't want to get too advanced, otherwise if you lose it, you lose too much. You want to stay as minimal as possible so that you can have the biggest reward, but you can't go too minimal. So you have to kind of weigh in that balance of being as thrifty as possible, but also being effective. But then the last thing that really makes Lostlight feel like Last Day on Earth or any of those survival games is the fact that greed makes you make bad decisions. So often in Last Day on Earth or in Frostborn, I'd be in the zones and I'd be farming and I'd be like, ooh, if I could just get 4 more slots filled, then my backpack will be completely full and then I'll get out of the zone and it'll just feel so good. And then right as I'm filling up those last last few slots, some team pops out and I'm like, dang it, if I had just gone home, it was already a lot of good loot. Lostlight is the same way. Sometimes you get really good loot. You're like, yeah, I've got 1,000,000 credits of loot. This is a really good run. I'm going to get home, but on my way home, I could drop by the buried shelter and I might get another 500,000 just from one, graphics card or something like that. And so you go in and then that person pops out and kills you and you're like infuriated because you lost 1,000,000. If you had just not been so greedy, you would have been able to get out with all of that loot, but you just wanted that one more. And that is the biggest reason why Lostlight is making me feel like Last Day on Earth, because it's not just that pull of the greed to make you make a bad decision and the reward of the restraint of being like, no, I'm just gonna leave the zone. It's also the devastation that you feel when you die and you realize, crap, it's gone. It's all gone, and I have to go and get a new piece of armor, a new helmet. I've got to get all of the new stuff, and you have to make terms with the stuff you had that it's gone forever. You can never get it back. You can't reload an old saved file. It is just gone forever, and that permanence of that loss is so infuriating, but it is also what makes us love these games and what makes us keep going back to those zones to keep trying to get more and more. So that's it, guys. That is why Lostlight reminds me so much of Last Day on Earth. If you like Last Day on Earth, you like that survival feel, and especially if you like first-person shooters and the concept of that in combination with that survival, going into a zone, grabbing stuff and getting out, then this game is going to be absolutely perfect for you. Well, that's it, guys. I get a lot of comments from some of you asking me to come back to Last Day on Earth, and the answer is not no, but it is also not soon. Coming back to Last Day on Earth might be a great move for this channel, but it's not a great move for me. I need to move on. I don't think I moved that far when I moved to Frostmourne. It's basically what Last Day on Earth was supposed to be. But maybe someday I'll come back to Last Day on Earth, coming back to like, oh yeah, this was the original game of this channel. But right now, I'm not. I'm loving trying out new games, and Lostlight is the new game that I'm really excited about telling you guys about. That being said, I definitely miss the Last Day on Earth community. Miss you guys. I know a lot of you guys have stuck with me. Others have moved on. Man, we built some great memories together. I love it. And like I said, maybe someday I'll come back. All right, guys, I'll see you next time.